Welcome back to How to Pose. Today we have the Neca Toys Slash. Before we get into the posing, let's talk about the aesthetics. But if you're not interested in hearing about the aesthetics, the posing starts at this timestamp. So if you want to skip ahead, go right ahead. So Slash here is absolutely gorgeous. I love the paint job that they gave this guy. When you get a Neca figure, the thing about them is that they will paint their figures from head to toe. So this entire thing is entirely painted. Nothing you see on this guy is exposed plastic. You can see all that great black line work in the crevices here, in the sculpt, outlining everything. I believe this Slash is based on his look in the comics. I'm not sure which comics. I'm not too familiar with Ninja Turtles comics, but honestly, this guy kind of captures like my mind's eye of Slash. And I have the Neca Holothon 87 turtles, the bright green ones coming in, and I think that this guy will fit right in with them. And I picked this guy up at Target for about 35 bucks, and for that price, guys, you cannot go wrong. This guy is absolutely beautiful in terms of the aesthetic, and even like the small little details on the belt here, with these little circles. You've got the blue shading on there, these like little ninja stars on his belt. And then the shoulder pads up here look really nice, like almost like little boards put together here. That looks really fantastic. You got the blades on his hands here, again, have that blue shading on there. And these are in there really well, so I don't think you're gonna have to worry about these falling out or getting bumped out. They're pretty tightly in there, so that's nice too. And then taking a look at this head sculpt here, all of the teeth are individually outlined, and that looks fantastic. You can see the pink for his gums there. You've even got some hatching down here, this line work right here under the chin, and every little detail of this figure just looks incredible. One thing though that I was disappointed about with this guy when it comes to the paint job is that, as you can see, like on the arm here, you can see like the brown on his arms, and even down here on the legs. That's from the paint on the brown areas, like the knee pads and the elbow pads, rubbing off onto the green parts, like right out of the packaging. Because I guess that the paint just got stuck to the other parts of his body. So that's not too great. But honestly, guys, I think that's a pretty minor flaw, all things considered. For the price point and what you get and just how beautiful this guy is, I can definitely live with that one flaw. And for the sake of comparison here, I wanted to get him alongside a couple other Neca Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures. On the left, we have the Neca Foot Soldier, and on the right, we have the Neca 1990 Ninja Turtles movie Raphael. And both of those figures are absolutely stunning as well. These two don't really fit in with this one, as again, this is based off of the live action movie. So it has its own distinct style. But these two guys, they fit in really nicely together, I think. I think he's supposed to be for the 87 cartoon. And obviously, this Slash is based off of his comic book appearance. But again, I think those two styles mesh together really, really well, and I think these guys look fantastic together. But with all that said, let's move on to the posing. Okay, so for the first pose, what I actually want to do is I want to get Slash into like a leaping pose, like the turtles do in the show when they leap from building to building. I just want to see what Slash would look like in sort of like that leaping from building to building kind of pose. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to make Slash look up as far as we can, which is going to be about that much. And then we're going to take the shoulder joints here and we're going to rotate them back. And be careful with the shoulders. These shoulder pads here are a soft plastic, and if you crash them into the shell, right? Mine actually tore off on the one side. It's still attached at the other side, but again, I would just be really careful with that. You don't want your shoulder pads to rip off. You don't want to have to re-glue them on. But if it does pop off and it does bother you, I'm sure you could just put a little dot of like Gorilla Glue in there and it'll go right back on. But just be aware of that and just be careful with that. But we want the arms moved back, and maybe we have like a bend in the elbow on one side and maybe one side is like straight out, you know, and then we've got our open hands on here. At the legs here, we're gonna move both of the legs at the hips all the way up like this and kind of bend these knees in. I'm gonna move one leg maybe back a little bit farther, one leg maybe a little bit forward, and we should be looking something kind of like that. And here we have Slash in our first pose, and he is looking awesome there, like he's leaping off a rooftop. You could even like do some pictures with this where maybe you have the turtles in the front and Slash is like coming from behind to pounce on top of them. I think that would just be so cool. And here we have Slash kind of from below into the side here. And yeah, this looks really awesome, just right up in the action there. I can just picture like the buildings behind him and like the skyscrapers and the cityscape. And I love all the little paint details on his belt, again, like on the emblem there. This figure just looks so fantastic. And here's another viewpoint for you, just raising the angle a little bit. And that again looks epic. I love his shell. I love all the spikes on it. The sculpt work they did there, it just looks absolutely awesome. Like, he really just does look like a bigger, badass version of the Turtles. More beefy, more violent, more powerful, just an absolute beast of a turtle right here. But let's move on to the next one before I start drooling. Okay, so for this next pose here, I kind of want to do something like just to kind of test the flexibility of this guy, like almost like a benchmark. And this guy being a Ninja Turtles action figure, I think this would also be fitting too. And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna make this guy do a high kick. One of my favorite poses to put action figures in, just to test them out and see how well I can balance them. But it might be a little bit difficult with this guy because there's no torso swivel here. I won't be able to use that to my advantage. But the first thing that we're gonna wanna do here is move the head to the side so he can kind of look where he's kicking. We're gonna move the right arm back, like he's kind of like throwing it back. We'd really want to move the bicep forward, but it's hindered by the shell here, so we're just gonna have to make do kind of like that. And then this leg right here is gonna move all the way up. This leg, split that. And then this arm, we're gonna bring this forward so that we can swivel this bicep and bend in this elbow. We're kind of gonna be looking something kind of like that. There we go, we got him to stand. And there's Slash in our kicking pose there. And yeah, it does look a little bit goofy because he is a bit chunky, and there's only so much you can do with this articulation. It is a little bit limited, but I do feel he has quite enough articulation for what this is, and you can get him into some fun poses. And just the fact that he can balance here and do this pose, I think is definitely pretty awesome. And here he is again, kind of like from a higher angle here, kind of almost like a top-down view. And yeah, you might be able to get some cool hand-to-hand combat shots with something like this too. You know, it never hurts to try out things. Even when you don't think that a figure is super agile or could never get into a certain pose, never be afraid to just play around with it and see what you can get it into, because sometimes you might be surprised at what a figure could actually do. And there is just a straight on view there for you. Kind of can't see his face that well there, but I think that still looks pretty cool. And yeah, honestly, I think this is pretty impressive. And you can even see his little tail poking out at the bottom there. Okay, let's move on to the next one. All right, pose number 3. And for this pose, I want to have Slash doing some attacking with his melee weapons here. As you can see, he comes with 2 beautifully painted weapons here. I'm not sure what these weapons are actually called, If it were up to me, I would say they're called crooked knife, and well, I actually don't know what I would call this. But yeah, if you guys know what these weapons are called, please let me know down in the comments because I have no clue. But for this pose, we're gonna move his head off to the side again, and we're gonna move his arm kind of like outward. Again, just be careful with this shoulder piece here. You kind of want to move it inward into the shell. Better in the shell than like pushing up against inside the shoulder pad. Because if you push it inside the shoulder pad, it's just gonna pop off. So just be really, really careful with the shoulder pad. We're gonna swivel the bicep this way and have that sword out like that. This arm is gonna kind of come up like this. We're kind of gonna have this weapon like raised above his head there. Then we're gonna have this leg extended out. We're gonna have to move that ankle joint inward so we can get his foot flat on the ground. And then this leg, we're gonna move upward, bend the knee all the way, move the foot upwards so we can have the flat. And we should be looking something kind of like this. And here's Slash in pose number 3, and it looks absolutely awesome. Again, the weapons are painted absolutely beautifully, and this figure is just so stunning. But at the same time, it's also big, bulky, and intimidating. And he'll be sure to look awesome fighting your other Turtles figures. Or even alongside other villains you may have. And here it is from kind of a lower angle here. Almost like he's in the middle of a sword fight. Like he just was in a bit of a clash and then they kind of both jumped back and they're about to go back into the sword fight. If that makes any sense at all, I don't know, I'm just kind of like going through the story that's unfolding in my head right now and sharing it with you guys. But I would encourage you guys to kind of like think like that when you're doing these poses. Think about where your mind takes you and what kind of stories your brain may lead you to when you're doing this. So the most important thing when you're doing this is just to enjoy it. And there it is, like kind of from the side here, and yeah, he does not look like he's messing around. And I always thought the idea of Slash was on one hand like kind of lazy, and then on the other hand kind of genius. Because it really is just another Ninja Turtle. But the black bandana, the big spikes on his back, the bigger, bulkier build, and all the blades that he has. Like, is it maybe a lazy antagonist design? I don't know, maybe to some. But that doesn't negate the fact that it looks absolutely badass. But anyway, let's move on to the last pose. Okay, so for the last pose, what I want to do here is I want to have Slash raising up in the air this foot soldier like he's gonna throw him across the room. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen pictures of this on my Instagram already. I'm gonna show you guys here how to do that. So the first thing that we're gonna want to do here is we're going to want to bend the legs. He needs to be getting his squat on to lift up this foot soldier. And we're gonna have him planted on the ground kind of like that. And then maybe have him look up. Both of the arms are gonna raise up at the shoulder. Just be careful of the shoulder pad here again. So we should be looking something kind of like this. And then we might need to take our foot soldier here and just for like a point of reference, and we might need to pose him up a little bit. Position him how we want here. Just play around with that until you've got everything in the position you kind of want it in and you can get it to balance. It's all a matter of, you know, patience and dedication to the pose here. And he might have some falls here. Maybe I actually want to have him on his stomach. Maybe that's an opportunity to change the pose here. And boom, if you're patient and dedicated enough, you should be looking something kind of like this. And there he is, the final pose, and he's looking like an absolute monster here, lifting up that foot soldier. And yeah, this is exactly what I think of when I think of Slash, just brute strength and brute force and being an absolute beast. And here it is kind of like from below, and again, it's looking really cool here. Once you get that foot soldier in just the right position, or whoever you want to have him throwing around, It just looks so good. Almost looks like the foot soldier's flailing around. Yeah, it just looks awesome. And here's one more angle for you guys, a bit more dramatic. We can see the foot soldier's back here and Slash looking straight into the camera. I think this would look really awesome if you just kind of like maybe darkened out the background, had some heavy shadows on it. Yeah, that would look really nice. But yeah, that's about it for this pose. So that's going to be about it for my how to pose video on the Neca Toys Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Slash figure. I think this figure is absolutely gorgeous. It's going to look amazing on my Ninja Turtles display, and for 35 bucks at Target, I could not pass this guy up, and I don't think you should either if you're a fan of Slash or if you're a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If you have some of the other Neca Turtles figures, I'd say this guy is a definite go. But with that, please make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already and turn those notifications on so you stay up to date with my latest content. If you like the video, please drop a like. It really does help this channel out. But most importantly, guys, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.